let's now talk about hypothetical ways to train. And I did this with Lane and people really liked this approach. So maybe we'll try to do the same thing. Let's go through some hypothetical case studies, right? So a person comes to you and says, Andy, I want you to design a training program for me. Here's what I look like now. Here's what my goals are. And the goal is a no holds barred approach to what they need to do. In other words, don't, unless I specify it as part of the problem, don't hold back, All right. So we'll start with the easy one, which is the untrained individual who comes to you and says, okay, I bought it. I'm all in on this. I'm willing to go to the gym. Peter's already got me doing a couple hours a week of zone 2 on the bike, but I don't even know how to approach this strength training thing. I'm willing to, I don't know, put 3 hours a week in the gym. I want to get bigger because I had a DEXA scan and it really showed that my ALMI was about the 40th percentile. And I really, looking at the literature, I think being at or above the 75th percentile for lean mass is a better place to be. So that's where I'd like to be in a year, 2 years, 3 years. But I also want it to matter. I want to be stronger. I want to be able to do stuff when I get older. I don't just want to get bigger. I want to be able to never enter a competition. I'm not here to enter the strongman competition, but I never want to hurt. I want to be able to chop wood in my backyard. I want to be able to carry stuff around. I want to be able to travel with a backpack on, blah, blah, blah. Any other questions you have for me before you design my program, Andy?
How many days per week did you say?
I could be up to going into the gym 3 days a week, an hour at a time.
3 days total. Okay, cool. So you've basically described every one of our executive clients in our rapid health optimization program. So I can nail this one. I obviously spent most of my career with professional athletes, but we deal with this problem all the time in rapid. So here's what I would say. You've already got zone 2 stuff.
Yep, I'm doing
That's steady state.
Yep.
Great, copy that. Here's what you need to pay attention to. You described muscle was insufficient. So we got to, in our brain, we're automatically thinking we've got to put on muscle mass. You also said they're untrained though. And one of the things you're going to see is quite clearly.
Sorry, I sort of left out. I was active in high school and college. It's not like I've never done anything, but I've been working really hard at my job, started a family, and so for the last 10 years, my only exercise has been activities of daily living, which include sometimes hiking and playing with my kids. But yes, I haven't been in the gym. I haven't been in the gym in a decade.
Perfect. Yeah, you still described everybody in rapid health optimization, right? No problem. So the way that I'm just going to walk you through I'm going to break the fourth dimensional wall here. My brain is immediately thinking, all right, we need hypertrophy. This is the base and foundation of everything. You're going to get stronger by doing hypertrophy. At this stage of your training, like we talked earlier, those are not always coupled. You can get stronger without getting more muscle mass very clearly, and you can get really a lot of muscle without optimizing strength. We talked about that at the end of those spectrums. You're at this end of the spectrum, the opposite. Those are going to be basically linked at this phase in your training. So we don't have to do both. You can do one and get both adaptations at the same time.
Because I'm so low on the curve, anything is going to give me a bit of both.
In fact, we can get that from not even lifting weights. Because in fact, in our training studies, you'll see equal adaptations in muscle size, hypertrophy, from even steady state cycling. Initially.
Right.
For 6 to 8 weeks, you'll see equal. All of our concurrent training models and studies will show the same thing. Not only is there not an interference effect at this stage, it's a complementary. In fact, a study came out more recently showing 6 weeks of endurance exercise, steady state cycling prior to hypertrophy actually enhanced end result muscle growth. So spending time initially getting physically fit before trying to add muscle mass for someone like this, it's a very fruitful investment.
Great. So the fact that I've been doing my zone 2 for 2 months actually has you pretty happy.
Super happy.
Okay.
I'm also thinking, all right, you mentioned longevity, physical function as we move down. You also mentioned You said 3 years from now or something, which tells me your mind is really thinking about long-term investment here.
That's right. Peter has me committed to, this is not about looking good in my bathing suit in 6 weeks. I'm not in a rush.
Copy that.
Yep.
Right. So one of the things that you'll see very specifically with aging is a loss of physical function, and that's more geared for power. In fact, the rate of, you've probably covered this before, rate of loss of muscle mass as you age is something like 0.5 to 1% per year. Loss of muscle strength is double to triple that. Loss of muscle power is triple that. And so what are you seeing? You see a very precipitous drop in muscle power. And why is that happening?
Speed.
A little bit of loss of speed. Aha. So preserving, in fact, you can do this. You can go look at the world records of all sports across age groups. So if you look at like track and field, what's the world record in the 100-meter dash? And what's the world record for the 30 to this? What's the world record for the 40 to 50-year-old range, 50 to 60? And what you'll see is strength sports like powerlifting, the world record through age doesn't go down that much. The world record in speed and jumping sports just falls off a cliff.
Yeah.
So it's preserving speed. In addition, my friend Greg Grosicki just published a paper this week in Journal of Physiology, a blue ribbon journal in our field, right? It's the high as you get. And this was actually looking specifically at single fiber contractile function changes with aging. And the data here are extraordinarily clear, have been a long time. You see very little loss of function in slow twitch fibers through aging, regardless of exercise or not. I sort of mentioned this earlier, but you see a dramatic reduction in fast twitch fibers. And you actually don't see a drop of power. And so there's nothing internal to the muscle fiber that's going down. So another way to say this is if you take an individual muscle fiber,
that's the problem.
It's the fiber size. The atrophy of fast twitch fibers is the almost exclusively the problem with aging in muscle. You have got to maintain fast twitch fiber size. Now, there are some loss of total fibers, but that is actually very difficult to find scientifically. Counting total amount of fibers in a live human muscle is extraordinarily difficult. So what we're after here is anytime I'm thinking longevity, I'm thinking primarily absolute force and power has to be preserved. And this is a fast twitch fiber atrophy issue. This is a target. So these are the things spinning in my head. So how is this 3-day-a-week combination going to look? Okay.
And sorry, just to make sure we translate that, Andy, because I think that was so important what you just said. You're basically looking, I'm 50, and you're looking down the barrel of my life saying you want to live another 40 years and you want to be functioning. The most important thing I can do for you in the gym is not focus on the things that you're going to get for free. It's focus on the things that are declining so rapidly. And I will, as a corollary to that, get a bunch of that other stuff for free. But I have to focus on the atrophy of your fast twitch muscle fibers because it's already happening and we need to stave that off. And we need to put in the gym systems to support the reversal of that process. Because if I just ignore that, I might as well be that highly exercised twin guy who's, doing all his cardio. But at the end of the day, he can't jump off the curb. He can't, he's going to be the hypercardio athlete who's still a decrepit person in the last decade of their life.
To make it even better or worse, those fibers require specific types of training. Unless you specifically do that, you just don't have any chance at those tissues. The other tissues aren't as like hypertrophy. Hypertrophy is pretty non-specific in terms of your training application. But if you want to make sure that you're targeting fast twitch fibers, like this requires very specific protocols, or like you have no chance. Slow twitch fibers are going to get activated with any activity of daily living. They're going to get activated with any amount of physical training, whether you're doing intervals, zone 2, zone 6, that doesn't matter, right? Zone 28, pick whatever you want. Slow twitch are good. It's the fast twitch fibers that require intention. And that's why I make such a big deal of it, because you can't accidentally get those.
Yep, that's right.
It's sort of like what we say in fighting is like, You can sometimes accidentally knock somebody out. There are fluke punches. There are no accidental submissions. Like there's no fluke arm bars. Like you have to know what you're doing there or not.
Yep.
So coming back to our avatar.
By the way, I love that line because I often say that to especially my female patients who are completely untrained, borderlining on cachectic, afraid of lifting weights. They just want to do yoga all day. And when I say, look, we have a problem here. You're osteopenic, and you're so weak. I am worried for your life. And they say, I just don't want to lift weights because I just don't want to get too big. And it's like, I have good news for you. The myth, the myth of accidental muscle has been fully debunked.
Fully.
Me and every other guy out there can tell you we're waiting for it to happen. It hasn't happened. The odds that you're going to wake up and think, God damn it, I'm too muscular. It just won't happen.
The vast majority of us sitting around hoping and praying and devoting most of our waking hours and non-waking hours to this goal that you think might accidentally happen. You're good. Yeah. You're totally safe here. All right. So we know we have to preserve past twitch muscle fibers for the long term. We know we have to take care of VO2 max. This is another, I'm sure you covered this in depth, important thing for longevity.
Yep.
All right. But we got some constraints. We also have to be considerate of, I have not trained in 10 years. I'm going to get very sore very quickly. And if I become too sore that it dissuades further training, now I'm going to lose you. I bought in, but that shit was too hard. I was so sore, I couldn't even walk. Blah, 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 right? I think in your show with Holly, she talked about making sure you start with a very low volume, like way lower volume than you think.
Yep.
We have time. Like we just need to move. I'm going to be very cautious of eccentric movements because they will generate more soreness than relative. And the last part, before I give you some direct answers, is we want to start building movement patterns that we're going to need over time. And so this is an investment. We can get all that done by doing the same sort of training. We're practicing movement patterns. We're getting that stuff grooved so we don't pick up injuries later. We're not getting excessively sore. We're building some muscle mass because we're going to get that anyways, and we don't need that. So if this was a 6-month program, because you can't write the same program for the next 50 years, right? What's the first 6 months, I guess, is if that's your question.
Yep.
All right. Zone 2 is out of the way. I would probably stick to fairly similar to what Holly said initially, which was, okay, something like 1 to 3 working sets of probably 4 exercises a day, something like that. We want to spread those across upper, lower, and kind of some different movement patterns. And we want to practice the compound movements. I'm not going to isolated single joint movements yet. I'm going to, let's learn how to do a goblet squat. Okay, this is a squat. You're going to hold the dumbbell sort of in front of your chest. Great. We're going to learn to do a hip extension. We're going to learn to do a basic overhead press or some bent rows, things like that. And I'm going to spend 30 minutes on those things. I don't even really care about tracking progression at this point. We're going to track, did you get the movement pattern down right? Did you brace? Is our spine in the proper position? Are you breathing through your nose and through proper positions? Is your neck in the right spot? Great. All this foundational stuff that feels like not a big deal at all right now, because it shouldn't be. But we're making sure boxes are checked so that when we start progressing load later, that neck doesn't start getting irritated. Right? We're just being in that position. We're going to do that, right?
Okay, so we're basically completely optimizing movement patterns. We're making sure we don't hurt ourselves. We're learning new skills, right? We're learning skills of exercise. Let's now go to the next 6 months. So I come back to you, Andy, and I say, this has been great. Like, this is not as difficult as I thought it was going to be. I've kind of enjoyed going to the gym, and honestly, like, I even see a little more definition in my arms and my legs, and I'm a little hungrier. So I've been eating a little bit more. I haven't lost any weight or anything, but my pants fit a little bit better. I'd like to take this up a notch. I can't commit more time though, Andy. So I'm really kind of, 3 60-minute spots is all I can get because I still got to get my kids from school and work is just as demanding as ever. But how do I increase the desire to be even bigger and even stronger and even more functional?
Great. So now we have to start investing that 60 minutes in those 3 workouts into different sections per workout. So we need to start doing something to start addressing power and speed. I'm going to give that the first 10 to 15 minutes though. We don't need to go nuts now, but we need to introduce those movement patterns and those velocities and that tissue tolerance, what we call it. So your ability to land and absorb. It's not creation of power, but it's the back end. How did I stop that movement? How did I land from it? We're going to continue to invest in the muscle growth. I mean, now we can start pushing the pace a little bit. And then we're going to actually, at the end, start investing in either muscular endurance and or interval stuff. So if we're still continuing to do zone 2, that's great, but we haven't worked on getting heart rate up, coming back down and regulating that whole piece. So what's that look like? The first 10 or so minutes of all 3 workouts per week, we're going to do something in basic movement patterns. So let's imagine a box jump, right? We'll do a box jump. We're going to jump from the ground and land on a box that's say 18 inches in the air, right? We're going to practice that movement pattern. I want you landing on the box, not on the ground. That reduces the eccentric landing because you're going to be absorbing way less. So you're not going to get as sore, but you're going to have to pop a little bit. You're going to have to jump to get up there. And we're bracing that movement pattern. I'm going to probably do something.
How are you determining that height, Andy? 18 inches seems really high to me. How do I know if I shouldn't be 12 to start? What level of fatigue? How many times would I do this so that I can gauge how high it needs to be?
There should be no fatigue. This is simply about high.
This is load
power
tolerance.
Production.
This is load tolerance then?
Load tolerance, and it's introducing power.
Okay.
So you're going to start learning how to move fast. But you're going to do it in a safe thing where you're not going to pull a hamstring.
And just to be clear, Andy, I don't need to compete in sports. I don't play basketball anymore. I'm not. Are you sure you need me doing this? Because all I'm trying to do is I just want to be able to pick up my grandkids in 30 years or 20 years.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay.
So in order to pick up your grandkids, you need to not be in the hospital, right? You need to be not living in an assisted living home. Do you know what puts people in an assisted living home? Falling and breaking a hip. The connection between morbidity and mortality with a hip break is extraordinary after the age of 60. It's not even 90. It is 60-ish. Large reason people fall is they actually don't have foot speed. What do you mean? If you catch your toe on the corner or you slip, you have to have the foot speed to be able to put your other foot or that foot back out in front of you in the proper position. Then you have to have the eccentric strength to stop that fall. And so I need foot speed to get there, and then I need eccentric strength to brace the fall so you don't land and break your hip. That's what's going to keep you playing with your kids when you're 60.
Got it. So even though,
Capiche?
Yeah. So it's not, even though I don't want to be a quote unquote explosive athlete, I still have to kind of train like one.
In some part.
Yeah.
And I'm asking for 10 minutes of your workout.
Okay.
Right. So I want to keep you there. You can imagine I can continue to give you examples and analogies, but this is if you want to go for a hike again and you trip, or you need to be able to get up and do a little scramble. You know, your 10-year-old grandkid is going to want to go up that rock. Like you got to have a little pop to get up there too.
Yep.
You want to be able to pull yourself, like all these things, right? That's what's going to keep you from going.
So what are some other things?
I'll just sit down here and wait. You go ahead.
Yeah, exactly. I had a patient once say something that I loved. I asked him kind of what were his goals for aging, and he said, to always be able to go to my kids and grandkids. And he meant it both micro and macro, right? Meaning I never want to be in the position where I can't get on an airplane and travel and go wherever they are. And I never want to not be able to go physically in the moment to where they are. I thought it was just a very elegant explanation.
The second part's brilliant.
Yeah.
That's so good.
Because that's the example there. I'll wait here versus, no, I'm going to come with you up that little rock.
Yeah, it's the water slide. I don't want to climb up those stairs. It's 7 of them, but like, it's all the little stuff, right? I have 2 little kids, so I'm very in the world of like what a 4-year-old will do.
So what are some other things that we would do in that first 10 to 15 minutes? So I love the idea of the box jump with landing on top, so you don't have that huge eccentric, massive deceleration. What about bounds, skips, things like that would all be in there?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, medicine ball throws are great. Medicine ball slams are great. Medicine ball tosses up in the air, high as you can go, as far as you can go behind you. These are reinforcing movement patterns you built the previous 6 months. Proper hip extension versus low back extension, etc. It is also doing what we call triple extension. So you're simultaneously explosively extending the hip, knee, and ankle. And this is a very important human movement pattern. You can do that without jumping and landing by throwing a medicine ball, tossing it.
Yep.
If you go to plyometrics, you have to be a little bit careful here. Plyometrics are totally safe for all ages as long as you account for volume. You just can't do too many of them at too high of an intensity, in this case, the eccentric load. So jump rope. A 5-minute jump rope is just plyometrics. Right now, when you go single leg to single leg, you start increasing risk. Like, so if you're to jump from your right leg and land on your right leg alone, risk. But 2-leg to 2-leg is very easy. I mean, for Pete's sake, you can play hopscotch. Hopscotch is just 2-legged plyometric to single leg to back to forward progression lateral. It's a wonderful little exercise.
Isn't it interesting when you go to a playground and watch kids play to realize they're not being told to do this, just the inherent ability that they have to be explosive. And as you said, how that deteriorates with age. Like, you just can't imagine watching a group of 40-year-olds sitting around just deciding, let's go play this fun game where we jump around. I mean, you do that if you're playing a sport, you do that if it's part of your pre-programmed workout, but it's not the equivalent of NEAT, right? Where you just...
There's no spontaneous.
Yeah, it's not spontaneous.
Power.
Yeah.
Last one I love is actually, don't get thrown off by this word, but I love sprinting. And I just give me 70%. You would be surprised of like, whoa, it feels like great / terrible. But if you can get on like a woodway or a controlled situation like that, and you could just do some like 70% sprint, just getting through the motion, kind of tempo is what if you're a runner, like you call it, that type of stuff. For very short distances, I'm talking like 15 seconds. Just kind of stride it out. Okay, slowly come back down. Wait a minute or two. Fully recover here. Okay, ready? Roll back into it. 2, 3, 4 seconds, and then pick it up for 5 seconds, 6 seconds. Okay, slowly back down. Just getting used to handling movement and being an athlete and moving and not being everything is locked into a position where it's structured and secure and all that stuff. So I really, really like movement, athletic movement and multiple planes for people. The last example I'll give you is just back to like high school and middle school sports. We're going to play 10 minutes of basketball. Go to the court. We're going to shoot, drive it up and down. Like, we're going to play racquetball as our warm up today. We're going to play badminton. You get over there, I get over here, like 2-on-2 badminton. Like, you can do a lot of little different things that are going to be multiplanar. It's going to be speed, agility, quickness at this point. So you're going to get change of direction. All this stuff is the foundation piece you need to get to when we actually do some speed and agility drills next year, or wherever we're going to get to, right? Like, which is going to be part of your plan. So those are all a bunch of examples. I would recommend doing a different one each day of those 3. So it's Mondays, we're going to do med ball stuff. Cool. Wednesdays, it's going to be pickleball. And then Fridays, we're going to do, some jump stuff and some medicine ball horizontal throws. Like, whatever the case is, maybe, or it can be jump rope. It's going to be hopscotch, things like that. I'm not against bounding, broad jumps. I typically want to start here 2-on-2, so 2-leg leave, 2-leg land for this person. But they don't have to be forward. They can be lateral jumps. They can be combinations. They can be all kinds of things. You honestly, you'd be surprised. Like, I don't want to say this too loud in case somebody hears, but that stuff's actually kind of fun. Like, it's pretty fun. You're gonna get a lot of giggles. You're like, I haven't jumped like this. It's like they're gonna feel weird, and it's gonna be way different than what they're thinking the strength training thing is. Like, you'll get some giggles. So that would be my.
That's your opener. That's 10 to 15 minutes. Okay.
Now we're hot. Now we're ready. Okay. Now we're gonna move into a strength training, and so what I would still do is keep the same structure, total body on all 3 days, because here's what's also gonna happen. Once a month, you're gonna miss one of those days or more. Your kid's gonna get sick. I got too busy at work. blah, 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 blah. If you do body part splits,
you'll start missing
all
big
day as
things. Yeah.
you're going to miss chunks. So I like in these situations, these people, I want whole body every day. You're going to recover just fine. I would do a different rep range. So I would do something like Monday is going to be, say, 3 to 4 sets of 5 to 7 reps. You're going to be able to go heavier. You're going to have a minute and a half rest between each one. Wednesday, though,
what RPE do you do there?
7 to 8.
Okay. So meaning just for folks listening, at the end of that, you're finishing with maybe 2 reps left in the tank.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Like I want to, like for the working sets.
Yep. Yep.
For Wednesday, let's go 15 to 20 reps per set. Right. So now you're actually going to have less, you're probably going to drive less soreness because you're activating probably less fast twitch fibers. You're going to get more of a pump. You can actually like push the repetitions and you can work harder and probably get a little bit less sore, and you'll feel more of an acute satisfaction for a lot of people, right? Like you feel the feeling and your risk has gone down a little bit. And then the third day, you could go really wild and you could do something like isometrics, where you're just holding positions. Very good for joint, very good for connective tissue, and very good for just doing something different. All 3 of these are equally effective for hypertrophy. So your gains in muscle size are going to be identical across the board. And now you've introduced 3 different elements.